Council Skies is the fourth album from Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. I've been super excited for this album for quite a long time. There were a bunch of singles released for them, and I loved a lot of them here. So I'm going to be talking about this record as well as two of the bonus tracks on here. There was the regular version and then the deluxe version, but I did not listen to all these remixes and instrumentals because that doesn't interest me as much. But the regular version of Council Skies is 47 minutes long with 11 songs on here, plus those two more that I will talk about. Noel Gallagher is one of my favorite songwriters of all time. Oasis is one of my favorite bands, and I just really love Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. I'm seeing them, ironically, in 1 month exactly, so I am super excited for that in Toronto, but I love the first Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds album, and I've listened to that one a lot more than the other two. So when I'm comparing them, the reason I'm comparing this one to that one sometimes in this video is just because I have more experience while listening to it. But this record is amazing. It really goes up there against this one. And this Friday, we had a bunch of awesome releases. We had this one, we had the new Foo Fighters album, which I will be talking about soon, and then I will also be reviewing Across the Spider-Verse because I saw that on Thursday. But anyway, talking about this album, it is truly amazing. One thing that really stands out for me that I think people will either love or hate, I feel like the majority of people will really love if they like previous Noel Gallagher releases, is the huge grand production of this one. There's a lot of orchestration, and the vocals, I don't even mean the vocal performances, which are amazing, but the vocals just huge, and there's just a lot going on in some of these songs, but the sound, it feels very huge. One thing that I really hate for albums is when there's a lot going on, but it feels like this. It feels so compressed and squished together, but this album feels very open and grand, and I really love that. And as I mentioned, the vocal performance is just amazing. These are some of Noel's best vocals. There's a lot of very high notes that I mean, he's always had the high voice of Oasis, but he really hits so many of these beautiful notes, and the vocal melodies are probably my favorite thing on this album. I mean, the lyrics are amazing, but that's one thing. I mean, I've always loved Noel's vocals. I know some people don't like early Noel's vocals, but he's up there with Liam. Like, he's just as good. And I think even now, today, his voice is better. I think his voice has aged a lot better than Liam's, who, of course, is one of the best singers ever. But I don't want to compare the two of them like crazy in this video. I just had to mention that because his vocals are so good, and all the other instrumentations are different. Is that even a word? I don't even know if that's a word, but I hope it is. They're different, and they're kind of not what you'd expect on some tracks, but there are some beautiful guitar parts. My favorite song on this album, just jumping straight to it, is Dead to the World. Now, this was easily my favorite of the singles. When I listened to it right away, I was like, holy shit, this is one of Noel's best songs ever. I mean, you take everything he's done, this is up there for one of the best. It has this very simple but gorgeous guitar opening, which I had to learn right away, and I think that song is just amazing, but I'll talk about it more in depth later on when I talk about every single song. But this album was quite consistent. I think there were a few tracks that weren't as good as the other ones, but the reason for that being is like sometimes they were shorter or stuff, or maybe they took a more format, like stereotypical format to it, like you kind of expected what was going to happen, and I don't really see that as a problem. But personally for me, I don't love when it's like intro, you know, the pop format, which is like intro, verse, maybe pre-chorus, chorus, second verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro. Like I don't think I can't point to any songs that exactly fit that format, but there were some songs where I was like, okay, I feel like I know where this is gonna go. But I really don't have many problems with this album. I mean, some songs, as almost every single album in existence, aren't as good as the other ones, but it's quite consistent. Like, there are not songs on here that I'm like, oh, I really need to skip this one, except for Don't Stop, but that's technically a bonus track. I don't know what was going on with that one. I'll talk about that later, but I really, really was satisfied with this album. I was a little bit worried because, you know, there was quite a bit of hype around it. For me, I was quite excited. I enjoyed all the singles. I loved some of them, and then I enjoyed the other ones, but I was really satisfied. I'm going to talk about every single song individually now, starting with I'm Not Giving Up Tonight. This one has a weird slide guitar part on it, I think. I don't really know what it is, but the vocals are crazy good, and this really shows that the whole album has this really grand and awesome production that I talked about, and I think it's a good opener. Then we move on to Pretty Boy, which was definitely my least favorite favorite of the singles. I think this was the first one or second one released, and I think it's better in the context of everything else on the album, but the weird instruments in the back make it feel a little bit off, but I still like the lyrics, and it's like, oh, who could this be about? You know, people are always taking a guess, and I wonder who that person could be, but it's fun. It's definitely not my favorite on here. There are other tracks that totally blow this one away. It's super catchy though, and yes, it is more pop oriented, but there are some really cool lyrics. One I really like is I want to change my star sign because it don't suit me. I mean, I'm not an astrology person, but lines like that, pretty cool there. Dead to the World, as I mentioned before, is one of my favorite songs that Noel has ever written. The reverb and EQ are placed perfectly on the vocals, and just the way everything's mixed with the subtle but very important instrumentation in the background, the orchestration, everything is great. And then that main guitar part, I don't know exactly what to call it. It's simple, but it just fits everything perfectly. It doesn't overcomplicate anything, and just the way the song builds and comes down, comes out crescendos and decrescendos. It's phenomenal, and I've listened to the song so many times since its release. It is by far one of my favorite songs from this year, and one of my favorite ones from Noel's career, if you didn't know that already. Open the Door, See What You Find is a really fun song as well. A huge drum sound opens this one, but unfortunately, some of everything going on does get a little mixed together, and the vocals aren't loud enough to perfectly make everything out, but Noel still provides some amazing runs here, and it's still a very good song. I assume he'll play this one live because I know he's playing a lot of songs from this new album, so I'm excited to hear that. I think with more listens and looking at the lyrics in front of me, I'll be able to understand it more, but I did notice that on first listen. Trying to Find a World That's Been and Gone Part 1, even though there's no Part 2 on this album, is really gorgeous. It's this very short and soft, beautiful song that I would say feels like a break, but it really doesn't because there's not a lot of very intense moments on this album, which I don't mind at all. But the whole wind and extra sounds in the back were very unnecessary and a little bit distracting here. But again, it is short and it really sticks with you. I really thought this one was quite beautiful. Easy Now was one of the first singles, and you can totally see why. Although it is more radio friendly, you cannot deny how catchy this song is, and the vocals are so good. As I've mentioned, Noel is such a great singer, and he's always been for me, but I assume that he learned to sing, this is just a guess, I don't know at all, by singing along to other things, but also singing scales, because he's very spot on with all the notes. It's not like he goes between them. He's always just hitting these notes really well, which I really love. Maybe some other people don't, and this is a great example. And sometimes he goes from this note to this note, and the way he transitions between them, it's never like a little loop like that. It's just straight along, and he hits it perfectly. Maybe that could be some computer stuff, but I don't think so. I really, really love this song. The vocal melody is incredible, and the mixing of the song particularly is grand. Yes, this is definitely a highlight on this record. The title track, Council Skies, is energetic and fun. You can't deny that. It's really just a fun time. It's like a little, spurt of joy thrown in there. Not to say that there aren't other songs with that, but you can't help just kind of going like that along with everything that's going on in the back. And as I mentioned, I love Noel's voice, so he hits some very impressive notes here. But once again, the chorus is catchy. I enjoyed it. It's not one of my favorites, but I think it's really good. There She Blows sounds like it would be an old sailor song, but the lyrics also kind of add into that. It's really fun, and I feel like Noel is almost singing a duet with himself. Normally you'd have one person and backing vocals go back and forth, but it's fun to hear him kind of, I wouldn't say go against himself, but have a little fun back and forth with his own voice, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm not exactly sure what the lyrics meant, but I'm interested to know if you guys have any ideas. Let me know in the comments down below. Love Is a Rich Man is a very good song, although it is a little bit convoluted. There is a lot going on. I wrote down that there's a trumpet or something like that, piano, drums, bass, vocals, an orchestra, and maybe some other elements here. So it all kind of feels clumped together, but about a minute and a half into the song, something like that, just over a minute, it starts to open up and it becomes a much better song because of that. It is very good, and I think this is another one that if it gets played live, it will be kind of just a better song overall. I mean, there's no easier way to say that. It's very good, but again, with the mixing, as I mentioned before, I love when songs are very open, and this song starts here for some weird reason and just is like, what is going on? And then as the song progresses, it opens up more, which is nice. Think of a Number is a very nice one as well. The bass line fits so well here and really helps us connect to the drums. Noel is such a good melody writer. I think that maybe I'm wrong, but I remember him saying in some interview that he writes the melody first, and you can tell with songs like this, vocals are amazing. I've said that a million times here, but really, he has never lost that charm that is there with his voice, and I really love it. There's also a nice little guitar break, which there aren't like any crazy guitar solos or anything on here, but the little guitar break was very nice and fit really well. I really like the guitar sound on here. It seems very much like a Fender sound a lot of the time, like a Jazzmaster type thing, Jaguar, like that type of guitar. I know he has one that he plays a lot that's like black and has like the Noel Gallagher smiley face and stuff on it, so I feel like he used that one a lot here, but I could be totally wrong. I like how this song is not necessarily slow, but it's still calming. Again, that's something that's really cool with this album, is that it's not like there's anything super crazy happening. Even when it's upbeat, you still feel like I'm not gonna, like jump out of my seat and go crazy. You're like, oh, this is really nice. And that's kind of how I would describe the whole album, which is a very good thing in my opinion. Now I'm reading this in the order of the deluxe version. So Don't Stop is the first of, I think, 2 bonus tracks here. And I won't give it too much shit because it is a bonus track, but the mixing was not good on this one. It seemed like they took the actual volume, like if you think of a guitar amp and you turn up the volume to where it's like almost peaking at a certain part, like maybe it even was a little bit, but there was just something weird going on. And I would say that it's Apple Music. I haven't listened to it on Spotify yet, but it doesn't sound like it'd be an Apple Music type of problem. And there are some cool parts in the song. There's one part where the guitar sounds like it's almost reversed. Maybe it is, but there are little things here. But yeah, I don't need to listen to the song again. I'm okay with it being a bonus track here. The real final track is We're Gonna Get There in the End. This one I've seen a lot of people really loving so far. And this lets Noel bring his voice down lower. I don't mean kind of in intensity or in quality or anything. I mean, he's been singing some high notes here, so we hear a more relaxed Noel, and it really works. There is no shortage of awesome moments on this track. The slight delay put on the vocals helps kind of create this sound that fills it in a way that, again, as I've said a million times, helps to create this very huge sound here. There's some subtle elements added on to everything that makes it stand out. The orchestration on this one, I feel like will be 50-50. Some people will love it, some people will hate it. I'm kind of split on it. I like it on a lot of the tracks. I wouldn't say that I hated it, but I don't think I loved it here. I understand why it's on this song, and it didn't distract me from the vocals, so I'm okay with that. I think it's a very good way to end this album. And then finally, we have a cover of Mind Games, the John Lennon song, and it's another fun one. I mean, this feels like something that would play as Noel's walking off the stage or anything. I don't mean like the final song in the encore or anything, but like as he's, waving and all that. I feel like they might play this song. Obviously, it holds nothing to the original, but I can see why it's on here. I mean, it's the Beatles. Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds' 4th album, Council Skies, is up there with his best post-Oasis work due to the wonderful vocal performances and melodies, great orchestration, and awe-inspiring production. Certain songs weren't as memorable, but I feel this album features some of Noel's best songwriting ever with tracks like Dead to the World. Give this one a listen if you are a fan of Oasis or Noel. I'm going to give Council Skies a 4.5 out of 5. I'm not going to lie, I had some high expectations here, but I will be listening to this one over and over again. I got to learn some lyrics before I go to that show in a month, but expect a bunch of other reviews coming this weekend. It'll be a little bit busier here, but thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have listened to Council Skies, what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.